Are there people who are fat because of their genetics?
There are people that are fat because they're predisposed to being poor metabolizers of carbohydrates and other things.
Being fat will kill you.
The one thing that I started seeing is you have, and I live in LA, so you have a lot of people that have this, Ozempic face.
Len May is the CEO of EndoDNA, a company that uses DNA testing to make health and lifestyle advice more personal. With decades of experience in cannabis, genetics, and health tech, he helps people understand how their genes affect the way they respond to cannabis and everyday habits that impact their well-being.
Some people want a quick start on, losing weight. Great, but it's not something you should stay on for the rest of your life. And if you're not doing with that, you're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle and you're losing bone density.
GLP-1's a longevity drug.
Interesting.
And if you take it at high doses, it'll shorten your life. If you weigh 300 pounds and you take it at high doses and follow the protocols that I've talked about with multiple doctors to form them, you should do that. If you know your genetics, will you know if GLP-1s are a good idea?
You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
We got DNA, cannabis, and precision health. You're a weird guy to interview. You ever hear that before?
I was introduced last time I was speaking somewhere as an autodidactic polymath. I had no idea what that was, so I had to look it up and get a book on it. So,
was it true?
I think so. I think it's all started with my ADD. So I always looked at ADD as a disorder before, because you're diagnosed with something, but I really found it to be an advantage. So
ADD or ADHD, kind of similar sides of the same coin, or in my case, those plus Asperger's when I was younger, which is curable, at least in some people. It's kind of a superpower because you can't make us pay attention to stupid shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is my superpower.
And, yeah. I like that. That's not what we're going to talk about here, but I do want to talk about brains. And you are an unusual brain with a pattern matching system. I feel some kind of kinship there. Yeah. I see patterns the way most normal brains don't. And you've also gone really deep on cannabis.
Yeah.
Now, cannabis is not my drug. Like, I take it, doesn't matter what strain. I want to go to sleep and eat, and that's it. And like no benefits. And I've used CBD and all that kind of stuff. What's wrong with me?
Where do you want me to start?
With your mother.
It's the biohacking community itself. I find it fascinating that, they talk about cannabis that only has to do with delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. But we don't talk about the primary regulating system of our bodies, which is the endocannabinoid system.
It's about 1,100 different ones, right?
Yeah. So I think the idea is, and one of the reasons why I started with cannabis, and going back to my ADD, is when I discovered that cannabis is my medicine.
Yeah, it works for you.
It works for me, but cannabis is broad. There's so many different components to it. Defining your ratio is where your secret sauce is. And it's avoiding those adverse events by finding out what doesn't work for you and doing your genetic test that way. But I think learning what the endocannabinoid system is and how it functions helps people understand that this is an endogenous system that you can use. You don't need phytocannabinoids exogenously. If your endocannabinoid system is functioning the way it's supposed to, you're good. But if it's not, then you have exogenous. You're lucky you have a plant that you can get plant medicine and subsidize what you're naturally deficient in. But how do you know that? So you have to find out about yourself. And that's why I launched EndoDNA in 2017. That was the first goal, to look at your endocannabinoid system, your genetic predispositions, and see how you can avoid adverse events. And that's the overall goal of the company when we started.
And what are the adverse events from cannabis you're avoiding?
If you don't mind, can I give like an overview of the endocannabinoid system?
Please do, yeah.
So the endocannabinoid system is our primary modulating system. Its job is to maintain homeostasis, which is balance. And the way that it does that, it gets signals from the other systems that we have in our body, like our endocrine system, our immune system, sends that information up the central nervous system to the brain. Then your brain gets to decide which neurochemicals to express. And the two that are part of the endocannabinoid system are called anandamide and 2-AG. So AEA and 2-AG. And when it secretes those neurochemicals, it helps to modulate if there's something that is out of balance in one of our other systems.
Okay.
So The challenge that a lot of people have, there's genes like FA, fatty acid amide hydrolase. So that gene produces an enzyme that breaks down, metabolizes anandamide. So if you're a person that actually has an AA or a homozygous allele combination of variant in that gene, you're breaking down more anandamide than the average person. So what that means is if there is an event like, I'm crossing the street and a car pulls out of nowhere, almost hits me. So I'm going to have an expression of a bunch of neurochemicals. As you know, we're going to have dopamine, adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol. Now, when my brain realizes no lion chasing me in the jungle, there's going to reuptake those neurochemicals, and my brain's going to release new neurochemicals. One of them happens to be anandamide. But if I'm breaking down anandamide more rapidly than the average person, that cortisol can stay longer in my bloodstream. So what's it going to do? Well, it can lower my pH level, make me more acidic. It can actually create an overactive immune response. I'll feel inflammation. So people are treating inflammation and pain like I'm just going to numb the pain instead of following it to see where it's coming from. So if I'm able to subsidize with phytocannabinoids like anandamide from the plant, then I can bridge that gap where I'm deficient in anandamide and be able to get my level just right. Now, the issue is delta-9 THC, which is what gets us high, that one molecule in cannabis, has a very narrow therapeutic window. So if you do just enough, great. But if you do too much, which is what most people do, now it triggers those adverse events. So if you have a predisposition to stress reactivity, it'll turn that on. Predisposition of PTSD. Oh shit, this happened to me, 3 months ago when I consumed cannabis. Now you're playing that over and over in your brain. And then some people have a predisposition to taking an event, a traumatic event, and storing it in their subconscious. And during duress, it can bring that up to the surface. So now you're having a very intense experience, let's just say, cannabis. I want to ask you about your memory, if it works this way, because it's really odd. So I remember like vignettes. Like I can call my friends up and my friends say, how do you remember? I'm like, I remember what you're wearing that day. I remember the whole environment. It's like a little movie that plays in my head. Do you get that?
Interesting. When the movie plays in your head, are you outside your body or inside your body?
Outside my body.
That's because you're disassociating.
Yeah.
So you're remembering that because your body flipped sympathetic. It's real common in ADHD and all.
Yeah.
Right. And if you were in your body, you would have remembered it from within your eyes.
Yeah.
So the reason you're remembering those times of stress are things you remember.
Yep.
That's the body keeping you safe. So I don't remember those like that anymore, but I used to.
Yeah.
But I don't leave my body that often. And if I do, it's generally because I planned to for an extended journey.
Exactly.
So what kind of cannabis is going to help me do that better?
We have to do your DNA test.
The answer might be none.
It does. Yeah. It does. Like we have 8 patents in different formulations. Okay. One of them is to help focus. So I have it's the terpene. The cannabinoid ratio is one thing that's important, but it's the terpenes that really are important. A lot of people overlook those, which are the essential oils in the plant.
And if you smoke it, the terpenes kind of get damaged, right?
It depends. If you smoke it in a combustible, like a joint, then they burn at the same exact speed. If you're doing a vape, then they burn off or they convert to other things and cannot be as beneficial, may not be as beneficial.
Vapes are generally bad for you anyway, right?
I agree.
So, and so is breathing, burning stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always torn. So I'm not a huge fan of cannabis just because it doesn't work for me. Yeah. And I know some people with autism and epilepsy where it's just been life-changing and it's medically necessary for some people. I'm also on Daniel Amen's board of directors. And he's got 500,000 brain scans that show, cannabis is not good for the brain. And I think that there's a large number of those people who are taking too much and the wrong strain for their brains. And I think there's almost certainly, if you could take a brain and say, for your brain, for this case, this strain, that you wouldn't see the changes. And, over time, as you get more data, let's talk with Daniel Amen. He's one of the more curious and open-minded guys, but he'll tell you regular cannabis use is probably not a great choice.
Yeah.
And would be willing to additional science. And I love you're doing the science because I cannot discard the reports of the people who say cannabis changed my life for the better. There are absolutely people like that.
I'm in agreement and disagreement with Dr. Amen because we've done 10 clinical studies. We're published in PubMed. Yes, you're absolutely right. There's certain things, and I believe that is a free radical of an anandamide, that you're taking too much. And if you're taking too much, your brain and your body is reacting to that. So if you find the right dose of the right neurochemicals or the right phytocannabinoids are right for you, then it works. It fits right in. And then if you're not, then your body is going to tell you. And that's why you have those adverse events.
It's probably similar for something like nicotine. You know, up to 10 milligrams of nicotine a day is not particularly addictive. Like that's the very upper limit. Maybe keep it to 6 or 8 if you don't want to get addicted. And if you do that, unless you have weird receptors, it's probably going to be really beneficial for you. But you go way higher, like, oh, look, I have ED and my hair is falling out. Well, welcome to excessive nicotine time.
Yeah.
Right? So does that mean it's good or bad? Oh, and was it smoking or was it nicotine? And that leads to the question for you, though, with cannabis, what's the best way to take it?
I believe sublingually is the best way to take it. That way you bypass your liver.
Okay, an oil?
An oil, yes.
Okay.
A tincture.
Got
oil.
it.
So sublingual delivery, sublingual buccal cavity delivery, it'll bypass your first pass. Your liver converts delta-9 THC to something called 11-oxyhydroxide delta-9. So it's a metabolite. Then it goes back and attaches to your receptors in your brain and releases an anandamide. But it's a different substance that you're consuming if it goes first pass. So sublingual delivery, and it's consistent because when you're smoking, you have all these different, components to it.
Yeah.
But if it's consistent and you want it as a therapeutic, formulation, now you have to make it consistently every single time. That's the best way, I think, to take it.
In my new book, In Heavily Meditated, I'm going through all the ways of entering altered states that are beneficial for people. And there's a chapter on psychedelics. And I use ketamine at 40 Years of Zen, my neuroscience clinics. I'm not opposed to these things. And I go through a list in order of what's least likely to cause short-term harm and have some benefit. And cannabis is actually the first one. Like if you're completely naive, you probably should get high with cannabis by eating it, and then move down the list. But there's still issues where someone really close to me, quarter tab of acid, things are okay. Half a tab, serotonin syndrome, which can kill you, right? And that doesn't happen with ketamine, by the way, but it happens with most of the other psychedelics. So can genetic testing tell people which psychedelic is likely to have the most benefits and the least harm?
Yeah. So we have a mental health test that looks at your genetic predispositions to the adverse effects of ibogaine, LSD, ketamine, MDMA, and psilocybin. So if you have genetic predispositions and you're taking too much, it can trigger those adverse effects.
So I've done everything on that list except for ibogaine, which I've been wanting actually to do because of old traumatic brain injuries. But ibogaine has some substantial cardiac risk. And I'm only doing that one in a hospital where there's, paddles and someone to say clear just in case. And I've done shamanic training. I'm not talking about recreational use.
Yeah.
Although I am going to Burning Man for the 12th year. I'm not opposed to once in a while having fun, but usually I'm taking it for spiritual work. Just full disclosure for you and for people on the show. So, all right, I will actually order your test to do that. And I'm sure we asked you for a code here because if you can talk about something cool you're working on, we always strong arm you to give us a code because listeners want a code. What? You're not going to give a little discount for our people?
Len 25.
Nice. There you go, guys. EndoDNA.com, code Len.
Len, Len 25.
25% off. You sure? That's a huge discount for people.
It's for your audience.
Guys, you can tell this is a definite planned marketing, whatever. I actually just wanted to interview Len because he knows a bunch of stuff. And this generally, anytime someone's selling something cool, I'm like, give our guys, our listeners a little bump. So thank you. That's very generous and completely unexpected. So other than usually we at least take, come on, 10%. So there you go. EndoDNA.com. When people get the test that you make, does it talk about other things outside of psychedelics?
Yeah, it talks about what we do is we do a whole genome.
Okay.
So
the whole human genome?
Yeah.
$149?
Yeah. So our customer is a healthcare professional.
Okay. But I can order directly, right?
We can order directly as well.
Okay, good.
But we white label that for healthcare professionals. So what happens is we did our endocannabinoid system test. We did that for several years. Then a doctor named Dr. Jennifer Berman, she's one of the top female sexual health doctors in the country.
I've heard of her.
She reached out and she said, hey, I have two issues with my patients. Number one, there's patients who are young women, late 20s, early 30s, coming in with perimenopause symptoms. Mm-hmm. The second thing is I have a lot of women are coming in with really, really adverse effects of menopause, like hot flash severity, weight gain, etc. She's like, is there a way that we can get ahead of that?
Totally, there's a way. It's all genetic, right?
Right. So we developed a menopause biotype test. Did we look at that genome? So what we do now is we'll do the whole genome and we'll give you, it's AI-based LLM. So we have LLMs, large language models, specifically for those tests. So if you are female and you're ordering your menopause biotype, and if the doctor wants to say, well, I want to do your nutrigenomic test, you can just press a button and you order a nutrigenomic test from that genome. But that one's been extremely helpful because we're able to get ahead of those symptomatic conditions that express themselves by doing hormone optimization, personalized supplementation, etc. So the doctors are really our customers.
One of the things that biohackers like is having hair. Because as you're dealing with longevity and aging, we're working to stop it, reverse it, but there are things you can do to have thicker, healthier hair that don't even require things like shampoo or serums, although some of those work. There's a product that I use called iRestore Elite. These are powerful light therapy for your hair. It's a triple wavelength technology that's actually patented. There's 300 lasers and 200 LEDs, so it penetrates deep into your scalp so that your follicles actually get real stimulation. The idea here is that the specific Lumitec red light frequencies they're using can reactivate dormant follicles so you have a restoration of your thick hair. I've actually used the iRestore, and you see a difference even in like a week. You put it on and suddenly your hair, it's just better. And if you use it over time, you actually can grow more hair or grow thicker hair. The cool thing is, if you get an iRestore Elite, you get a 12-month money-back guarantee. So you can use it every night. I usually like to use light therapy on my head right before I go to bed. Well, if after a year you're not seeing any results, you can send it back. That means there's very little risk here, and it is insane how important mitochondria are for the growth of your hair. And if it's just starting to fall out or you're getting thinning hair with perimenopause, just do something about it. Your hairdresser is going to say, what did you just do? Now I have to deal with thick new hair and scraggly old hair. It's that big of a difference. And it's the holidays, so of course you want your hair to look better for all the photos and just to hang out with your friends and family. iRestore helps you do that. And of course, that means huge Black Friday savings all month long. You can use code DAVE at iRestore.com and they'll give you a discount on the Elite. This is one of those cool technologies. You don't have to eat anything. You don't have to take a supplement. It's a one-time expense and it actually works. It's iRestore.com, code DAVE. There's kind of two camps. There's the genetic camp where everything is genetic and they'll try to argue cancer is genetic. Dude, it's not. There's no common patterns. Right. And then there's the epigenetic camp, which is it's all about the environment. And that's kind of me, like biohacking, change the environment around you to have control of your biology, epigenetics, longevity, consciousness, all that stuff. So the reality is that if you don't have the switches to turn on or off in your genetics, it doesn't matter what you do in the environment, right? So you need to know both. But there's been a lot of nonsense out there in the genetic testing realm.
Yeah.
So how do you know if the genetic test that you already have is nonsense or not?
Well, what we did was we made sure that every single report has a peer-reviewed reference citation of PubMed or equivalent to PubMed. Mm-hmm. So if there's no research around it, we don't present it. But you're absolutely right. It has to be both. So your genetics, I always look at it this way. It's sort of your GPS of life. Mm-hmm. When you do your genome, you know where your own personal potholes are in your own road. You can still, I live in Philly, so I can drive from LA to Philly without a GPS. Am I going to get there? At some point. Am I going to hit some traffic jams, some potholes, accidents? Yes. But if I know that I have my GPS, I know what to avoid. So yes, it gives you information and empowers you with lifestyle choices that are specific to you. So I completely understand and agree. You have to bookend that experience with your genome your lifestyle changes and choices. And then from there, you measure how well that protocol worked for you. So when we work with doctors, we create a personalized treatment plan based on your genetics. The treatment plan is then given to the patient by the doctor. Then we come back and we measure epigenetic changes. So we measure biomarker changes. We measure biometric expression.
And that's with the doctor. You don't just order that directly.
That's with the doctor.
Okay, cool. And so this is foundational functional medicine stuff or longevity medicine. And it's kind of weird. Make a hypothesis, set a goal, test it, do the thing, and then test it again to see if it worked. That's a great way to look at it. Or you could say, oh, you have cholesterol. Let's give you a statin, and let's just not do anything for 30 years as your mitochondria decline. Like the state of Western medicine is shockingly bad because of this, right? We just believed it was going to work. And the approach you just described is biohacking or functional medicine. It works in exercise. It works in nutrition. It works in supplements. It works in medicine. But if you don't test results, you're just a witch doctor.
You're wearing a glucose monitor. So I got two stories. So when I get an annual physical, it's the only time I go to a doctor and I get my blood work done.
Yep.
I'm completely paranoid and scared of when they take my blood.
Oh, really? So, you have like needle phobia?
Well, no, I have a bunch of tattoos.
Okay. How's that possible, right?
I don't know what it is, but my dad had it too. Maybe it's genetic. I should look into that. But I almost pass out.
Oh, wow.
So when I got my results last time, I saw that the doctor's like, your blood glucose level is a little high. I'm like, I don't eat sugar. I don't eat meat. Like a lot of
things. You don't have to just get your sympathetic nervous system turned on a little bit. Gluconeogenesis, bam.
Right. Yeah. So luckily I had a functional medical professional and she's like, I think it's probably the cortisol level that you secreted when you were stressed. A normal, like a regular doctor would give you medication for your pre-diabetic. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So like, if you want, wear a glucose monitor and we'll see. And I did that for several weeks and nothing. But that's what I'm talking about. Like understanding that who your doctor is, how your doctor is. So it's specific. It's personalized. It's not this, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Why am I taking 2? Why not 1? Why not 4? How do you know how I metabolize? You don't know this about me. And I have another quick story of how genetics play a role. So I have a friend of mine, really successful business person, and he was in a venture. Something happened, didn't go well, became really depressed. And he went to a doctor and got an antidepressant. So he was driving around LA and driving around the canyons with his son and his wife. And he goes, I had an overwhelming desire to drive off the cliff. He goes, it was so real that I had to pull over. And I got out of the car. My wife's like, you're okay? He was like, no, I should not be driving. So went back to the doctor. And he asked if he can get a pharmacogenomics test because we did his genome too. And it looked, all the drug that he was prescribed was red. He shouldn't have been taking that drug in the first place. And he also has treatment-resistant depression. So it wouldn't work for him anyway. But he suffered all the side effects, which is suicidal thoughts. And I was doing a talk in front of a bunch of big pharma executives and doctors. And I said, can I ask a question? How many of you do a PGX, a pharmacogenomics test, prior to prescribing an antidepressant?
Nobody does. And it should be standard of care.
0.
And so, newsflash, if you have a doctor who wants to put you on something for depression, you might want to look at what Daniel Amen says and I say about saffron, which works much more broadly than a lot of the pharmaceuticals. And you probably should get a genetic test to see which pharmaceuticals might work. Because otherwise, it's literally Russian roulette.
Yeah.
And some of those things make you act weird. I mean, suicidal ideation is one thing, but, there's people like drop into weird sex addiction. There's correlations with school shootings. Like, there's some weird stuff. So I got no problem with any pharmaceutical. And some people get really mad about that. If I can trigger you, it means you're carrying a loaded gun and my finger's on the trigger. So you should read my new book and unload that crap, because there is no moral anything about a shovel or a gun or a statin. Like, they do what they do, and it's how you use it and where you aim it. So what I would recommend is, if you're going to do the big guns, which you may actually benefit from greatly, to know what your body can handle. So thank you for bringing this, because no one talks about this. I think I've talked about this maybe once in 10 years. So thank you, because that's a big deal. What is the most dramatic benefit of properly dosed, genetically chosen cannabis that you've seen in your experience here?
I mean, so many stories. So besides my own, because I was put on prescription medication until I found cannabis.
Which one?
I don't even remember, like Ritalin, maybe? Adderall. No, it was before Adderall.
Dude, Adderall.
Ritalin.
I hate that stuff.
They're all bad. And I can't say it didn't work. It depends how you define work. So it did help me to focus, but it removed my sense of self. There was no emotion or feeling. You're just walking through life without love, without any passion of anything. And it's just not the way people should show up in the world.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a couple of stories. So I don't get to interact as much as I used to with people. But I was in Brazil. I was speaking in Sao Paulo, and there was a line of people that was lined up afterwards to meet me because they're doing our genetic testing and our formulations in Brazil. And there was these two people. There's one woman with her daughter. Her daughter was in a wheelchair, and she has really severe autism. She said for years she was nonverbal, but not only nonverbal, never communicated with her eyes. She just had a blank stare. Wow. Until we did her DNA test, got a formulation. She actually said thank you and spoke. And she goes, "You renewed a completely new relationship with my daughter." We didn't cure her. She's not running, a marathon, but it improved her sense of self. And then there was this one guy with his mom, and he's like, she couldn't get out of the chair. She was so depressed. Wow. She just sat. And now she's cooking in the kitchen again.
Like meth or something?
Yeah, meth, but it's okay. At least she's cooking something.
It was a heartfelt story. I'm just like, that was Breaking Bad coming in. But that's amazing. Like it changes people's lives. And for people who are sitting in judgment of cannabis right now, those things are real. And those patients have a right to try and to see what works. And what if you had the data to try? That seems like a better way to do it. Yeah. And it might not have worked. But if you stop trying, you'll get those same things where sometimes I'll say, I used to have Asperger's syndrome. Yeah. And some people get really mad, go, "You can't cure Asperger's syndrome." And I'm like, I guess I don't exist then. Like what does that mean, right? All these weird beliefs. So there is merit to using cannabis or mushrooms or amoxicillin, or modafinil
or
at
DMT.
the right time, or DMT at the right time for the right person for the right results. And there is no moral judgment on any of these. And if you find yourself getting, "Oh my God, I can't believe Dave's promoting cannabis," I'm not. I'm promoting the right tool for you to enter the state that you want to with the minimum harm and ideally no harm at all. And that's all it is. And cannabis has to be on the list.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also people's misunderstanding of how drugs work in the first place, because we have these classifications. Oh, well, this drug is bad. Well, why? Well, because politicians and pharmaceutical industry said it's bad. Well, cocaine. Why is cocaine bad? Well, we use it as Schedule II narcotic, but how does it work? Well, if you're doing the ligand, the exogenous cocaine, it'll bind to your dopamine receptors, squirt a bunch of dopamine, and it'll block the reuptake of that. So now you're getting that, but it's not the cocaine, it's your own dopamine. And then your brain says, wait a second, I don't have to produce my own. I can get it from something else. So I'm going to send a signal, give me more of that kind of thing. So this is where people what makes this one good, this one bad? If it's effective for you and it's safe and you know how to dose correctly and you're under supervision, why not? Who's going to tell you why one is worse than the other?
Big Pharma has been trying to move into cannabis for a long time, and so is Big Tobacco.
Yes.
What's your take on that? You got to. I saw the censor come on. Like, they still might want to acquire me. I can't.
Well, no, because I'm in communication. I'm in talks with a tobacco company right now, very big one. But
I've met their head of R&D, the one you're talking about. So out of Switzerland. So
yes, exactly. So here's a story. It's interesting because they have a tobacco company, they have a vape company. They also have a pharmaceutical company that they own. That pharmaceutical company specializes in medications specific to the diseases that are caused by their products.
Yep.
So I find it fascinating. And I believe that, cannabis to actually elevate us out of the dark ages of this is this drug illicit and all that stuff. You have to work with the pharmaceutical industry. You have to get consistency. Like, this is the thing with cannabis that really bugs me, that if I have a genetic predisposition and I'm in California and I have this tincture and it's the right ratio of cannabis and terpenes, well, if I go to Pennsylvania, I mean, I get the same thing. It's different everywhere. We don't have that consistency. So we need that pharmaceutical oversight or some sort of oversight to make sure our testing's on point. And so I can get the same supplement in every single state, no matter where I go. I don't have to worry about it.
I flew out to Switzerland and met with the lead R&D guy from one of the big tobacco companies. I'm not going to name them for just because I don't know if he wants to talk about it. But this guy, incredibly brilliant mitochondrial expert.
Yeah.
And we talked about how nicotine increases mitochondrial function. It's a exercise mimetic. It's a longevity drug. It's neuroprotective. Yeah. And I've been talking about that on the show ever since for almost a decade now. And he just said, we're not allowed to say that. It's like everything we do, we have to say, smoking is bad for you. Nicotine is dangerous and deadly, but nicotine and tobacco are not the same thing. And I bring that up because smoking cannabis, which is what almost all studies are on, is not the same as eating a cannabis oil, putting it in your mouth. And it's not the same for each strain. It drives me nuts. People are like, well, what's the most important thing you could do? Exercise. Like, oh, really? What kind of exercise? Right? Or cook. Oh, I should make French fries. No, I mean, cook something healthy. And you just realize our brains will generalize things to the point of stupidity. Right? And then it doesn't mean anything. And then we try it and we say it didn't work because we didn't actually try it. Yeah. But with targeted precision medicine, I think we have incredible stuff. And one of the things that I think is most powerful here, you look at something like long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome, which are the same damn thing, caused by different things. Most chronic fatigue is caused by toxic mold exposure. And I've done a big documentary on that. And there's an interesting thing. If you don't know where your cannabis is from, you might be getting some mold toxins in there too, right? Big problem in the industry. But how is that going to affect you? I interviewed a husband and wife couple. They're in a moldy home. She's full on disabled and she knows she's not crazy because she has a temperature. So she biopsies every organ in her body to try and figure out what's going on. Eventually they find out it's mold and none of her organs have a problem. The whole time her husband's sitting there was also a medical doctor going, I never felt anything, but I know it's real. And when you do a genetic analysis, you'll find she has HLA-DR4. And most of the people who get mold poisoning, including me, that is hard to treat, we're designed to take an arrow in the back and not bleed to death and to invade your village and steal whatever we want, not get sick from all your weird microbes, go home, take a shower, and do it again. Yeah. Right. And that combination of frequent clotting and active immune function means that mold will trash you sometimes permanently if you don't know what to do. So knowing that for your kids or for you when you're having weird symptoms means you know what supplements to take. You know what to do to block the markers. And if we would just test everyone, dude, a third of people have this gene. It's kind of important, right? So do you test that? And does it have anything to do with cannabis?
Oh, we do test that.
Okay, in doctor's offices.
Yeah, okay. In doctor's offices. But it's not even in doctor's offices. You can get it at a doctor's office and take it home with you and swallow. But yeah, we definitely test for that. Does that have something to do with cannabis? Yeah, because spraying cannabis is a big thing in the industry. So it used to be for weight. People would spray with weight, and when you spray it, it creates mold.
Like with water.
With water.
Okay.
Now, people spray it with a different flavor or scent. Like you get a strawberry cough.
That's going to mess you up.
Exactly. That's why we have to have consistency of production. It's one thing to say you want a ratio of cannabinoids and terpenes to be a certain amount, but where do you get that product? So we as an industry, the entire cannabis industry has to treat the actual product like a pharmaceutical product or at least a nutraceutical. So it's consistent everywhere and safe.
Are there people who are fat because of their genetics?
There are people that are fat because they're predisposed to being poor metabolizers of carbohydrates and other things. So
you can't call them fat. That was rude. Sorry, it's not rude. Just kidding. By the way, guys, I weigh 300 pounds. And if saying the word fat is a problem for you, get a therapist or get some GLP-1 agonists and learn how to use them effectively. Being fat will kill you.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but there are genetics.
There are genetics, of course. And then the GLP-1, since you bring those up, because, we work with a lot of companies the one thing that I started seeing is you have, and I live in LA, so you have a lot of people that have this, Ozempic face and stuff. And it's interesting for me to see that people are starting to lose their muscle mass, and they're starting to lose their bone density. Like there's DEXA scans that are before and after. So if people are doing that, first of all, some people want a quick start on, losing weight, great, but it's not something you should stay on for the rest of your life. And if you're not doing resistance training with that, you're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle and you're losing bone density. So I want people to really realize
Yeah, thank you. And guys, daveasprey.com/GLP, there's a full protocol. And what you just heard, you got to get enough protein. I don't care if you don't want to eat it, do it anyway. And then enough of the right minerals and the right resistance training and some mitochondrial support. And you can use it very safely at low dose. Yeah. And every 2 weeks, I inject 10% of the normal dose of retatrutide, which is a third generation GLP-1, just for longevity. And it's a tiny, tiny microdose.
What does that do?
It's a third generation GLP, so it blocks GLP-1 and it also blocks glucagon.
Got it.
So it's just a more powerful one for weight loss with less side effects and stronger longevity effects. And I've been saying that since the very first interview on the show. GLP-1's a longevity drug.
Interesting.
And if you take it at high doses, it'll shorten your life.
Yeah.
If you weigh 300 pounds and you take it at high doses and follow the protocols that I've talked about with multiple doctors to form them, and they're free, by the way, like literally daveasprey.com/GLP. It's free. Get that. You do that, not being fat is going to extend your life more.
Of course.
So you should do that. And if you know your genetics, will you know if GLP-1s are a good idea?
Yep. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
what genes affect GLP-1 sensitivity?
Well, it's how you metabolize is really important. So
how you metabolize fat or carbs, you're saying?
How you metabolize fat and carbs. Yeah. So if you're a poor metabolizer, and also dosing of the GLP-1s, how much do you need based on how you metabolize those GLP-1s as well? Are you a rapid metabolizer or you're a slow metabolizer?
Wouldn't it be amazing if every time you had any test, wouldn't it be amazing if every time you had any pharmaceutical, you already had your genetics so you could just look it up and see what to do?
Hey, the country of Iceland genotypes every single person there. I don't understand why we don't. But that's why I started saying, well, a doctor tells you to take 2 of these. Why is it only 2? You never told me, like you never looked to see how I metabolize. I could be an ultra rapid metabolizer. Like you brought up CBD. I'm an ultra rapid metabolizer of CBD. Yeah. So if I take a dropper full, I'm really creating expensive urine. I'm peeing it out really fast. So I need 2 to 3 times the amount. But if I don't know that and we talk to people like, you take CBD, it doesn't really work for me. How much do you take? A dropper full. Well, how do you know that's the right amount for you if you don't do that? The other thing I wanted to mention that we didn't talk about a little bit is Alzheimer's. So we're in the middle of a clinical trial with a drug called TB006. It's a galactin-3 inhibitor. So galactin-3 creates amyloid plaque, the same amyloid plaque that's in our heart, like arteries. It's the same amyloid plaque that's in your brain. And if you have an APOE4 genetic predisposition, that's the genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's, but you're also lifestyle choices create a lot of amyloid plaque, you're more likely to express Alzheimer's. So we're doing this study, but the one thing that in the study, when they did their original phase 1, there's a certain genotype that this drug doesn't work for, RS4644. So they know this for sure. So now we screen everybody for the presence of that genetic predisposition, so they know that it's going to be efficacious for them.
One of the cool things you can do is you can upload your genetics to whatever AI you work with.
Yeah.
And say, hey, take a look at this, or you can look at the output of the report and it'll provide really good recommendations. And if you work with a system actually designed for that, you'll get even better ones.
So we do that too. We can take raw data from any, like a 23andMe leftover results or ancestry. If you upload it to our site, we'll interpret that and provide a report.
Super cool. I believe that everyone listening needs to have their genomics. You need to do this for pharmaceuticals, and more particularly, you need to do this because there's a good chance you have not just MTHFR. And Gary Brecka's been on the show, and he talks about that a lot. That was a big focus of mine for my first book on fertility in 2011. Yeah. And in fact, I said, take folinic acid, not methylfolate. And now they're finding that that's the thing that is making autism symptoms go away in people. It's a different form of folic acid that bypasses methylation stuff better than methylfolate. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit there. And if you have that, then you know, and you can change your supplements. But there's about 20 other things, like the way you handle sulfur and nitric oxide and histamine. And the list goes on and on. If you know, it's going to create amazing relaxation and peace going, I'm not crazy. Every time I eat that, it really does mess me up. And you know why? And then you know what to do to counteract it. And it has taken me decades to figure out all my own weird stuff like that. Some of it finally was with genetics. Most of it was with just a deep research and understanding. It doesn't have to take decades and $2 million to reverse your age the way I did, because it's getting way easier with genetic tests. So go to your functional doctor and ask for it, and who knows what might happen.
Do you do microbiome testing also?
I was a very early advisor and investor in Biome.
Yeah.
I've worked very closely with Naveen and his team for a long time. I do test that, and it's amazing. There's things like Pharmacogenomics and Bacteroidetes, which are two common species. The Bulletproof Diet, if you have brain fog and attention issues, you probably have too much Pharmacogenomics and not enough Bacteroidetes.
Yeah.
So there's one kind of prebiotic you should take, right? And a common prebiotics actually won't work because they'll feed both. So all of a sudden now you have like a scalpel-like control. So what's in your microbiome? Or you can just go to Biome and say, what should I eat to make it better? And they'll just tell you what to eat. Although, Naveen, I hate mung beans. I don't care how many times you're telling me mung beans. No, I'm not doing that.
But it's funny because when I did my Biome, it said that bell peppers are inflammatory food for me. And I just wanted people to understand, just because something is healthy and it has vitamin, maybe your microbiome is not set up for that and it's inflammatory.
Yeah, I don't think bell peppers are particularly healthy for anyone, and they're a nightshade.
Yeah.
But some people can survive on them and they taste good. It doesn't cause a lot of harm. For me, give me a couple of bites. The arthritis I was diagnosed with when I was 14 comes back. So genetically, those are off. But Biome is interesting because they're not looking at genetics. They're looking at your biome. And it also says not to. So everything in my body is like, stay away from the peppers. And then my inner masochist for dopamine is like, eat the chili. So I got to resolve that. Some kind of deep meditation in a cave or something.
There you go. Some DMT.
Len, you're doing really cool stuff. EndoDNA.com. And what was it called? Len 25?
Yep.
Thanks for that gift, for real.
For sure.
And I'm really serious, guys. If you're going to do any kind of psychedelics or plant medicine, you really should do this. It's a big discount. You're saving like $50. And this is not like a sponsored thing. We're just hanging out, but it's not much money and it could save your life if you have serotonin syndrome. Do you know the incidence of that? I know it's more common in Eastern Europeans.
No.
But
I'm Eastern European.
I think it's like 1 in 40, if my memory is right. Don't trust me on that entirely, but it's a meaningful number. And you don't have to be Eastern European for you to have it. Yeah. Knowing that, holy crap, you might have a really bad night and end up in the ER the first time you do psychedelics if you have that genetic. And it's unlikely, but it's possible and it's cheap to prevent it. So if that's your issue, then do something that doesn't act on serotonin. You can do ketamine or cannabis. You'll be okay, right?
I never understood why people don't want to find out as much as they can about themselves. You are here for a short period of time. If you're going to, and you being a biohacker, obviously, but find out as much as you possibly can. Do everything. Do every single test possible so you can learn, because we're all individuals. And if you know what you're genetically predisposed to, what you're epigenetically expressing, all these different things are just information. So if you know this about yourself, you can take measures to prevent things from occurring. And I don't know why people don't. Everybody should do that.
I've talked with a lot of people. They're like, I might find something that's a false positive, or I might not like what I find. And like blissful ignorance is a weird strategy for me.
I know. Right.
And to that point, I've had the guys from Pre-Nuvo on. This is a whole body MRI thing. I went up and got to know the founder when they only had one location in Vancouver. I was like, this guy is really smart. And we did an episode. And I think it's probably code Dave still, wouldn't surprise me. But they called me about 6 months later and said that episode saved 25 lives. So they tracked whoever, signed up with the code or said that they heard about it on the show. And they said 13 people had late stage cancer that they could treat. They would have just not known about till it was too late. And the other ones had aneurysms that were about to blow.
Wow.
And lots of people have, a small aneurysm, right? And then they get worried. And there's one influencer who's like, forgetting who it was. Was it Glucose Goddess? I saw something online recently. I think that's who it was. She's like, I'm not sure that I'm happy I did this because I had to test this thing. Now I know it's in there. But here's the thing. It could have been a big one about to kill you, right? And knowing you have something and worrying about it all the time, if you have a problem with worrying, get your genetics done, figure out what's going on with your catecholamines and stop worrying, or learn the reset process thing, or do EMDR. Yeah. Like, this is within your control. But I think it's out of integrity. You say, I could know how to be more present, how to live longer, and how to honor the gift that is life. Yeah. So I'm not going to do that because I'm afraid. I'm like, that's not all right.
No.
Well, thanks for doing the hard work on genetics and combining it with psychedelics, which is legally, fraught with risk, but doing it anyway, because people have a right to know. And I think we're about to open the door on a lot of consciousness and doing it safely because what you're doing legit. So thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See you next time on the Human Upgrade Podcast.